welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We are back here on YouTube, and this week we have another episode of the K2N vlog. Exciting times for K2N and the Online Paddle School. We are progressing the website and our brand. One of the first progressions is getting all of these jerseys made by Marine Generations. I just put in the order. They will be here in about a month. So stocking and retailing high quality jerseys is a big step for the online school by becoming a retailer. And adding on to that, I'm working closely with a paddle brand, and hopefully this all works out where I will become a retailer for them here in the United States. The paddles are incredibly tough to get here in the US. It is a product that I am pretty passionate about whether I sell them or not, but it makes a lot of sense to make it more accessible for the US market if somebody here in the US has them readily available. Hopefully that all works out, and if it does, you will see some big announcements on social media. And the other progression with K2N is becoming a sponsor for the race Chattajack in Chattanooga, 31 or 32 miles down the Tennessee River. It is an awesome progression going from participating as an individual, building a club, and building up people to go and do their first long distance race, and ultimately now supporting the event as a sponsor. There is a lot of synergy having such a big marquee event and having a paddling coaching service that can funnel people into the event, right? So a lot of people are looking for structure in their training and figuring out their technique and what boat do I use and what kind of nutrition and all my race strategies. All of these ideas are found on the K2N Online Paddle School, and so now we can work together to continue to grow and optimize the racers at the event. For a lot of racers, this is their first long distance race, right? 32 miles is equivalent to running a marathon for a lot of people, and so the first building blocks towards that being associated with K2N, it's an awesome experience for myself helping these newer paddlers and having such a great outlet for them to showcase their skills. We're planning to do clinics on Thursday and Friday before the event. So as we get closer, I'll iron out those details, whether they're outrigger canoe or surf ski, how many sessions of them they're gonna be, how many hours, and so on. So if you are interested, feel free to reach out anytime. I will likely make a Paddle Guru link and share that around and try to get an idea of the participation numbers. K2N Growing is directly connected to all of you supporting the online school, watching the YouTube videos, coming to do lessons and clinics here in Hernando, or having me come to your area. All of that helps build up K2N, and I ultimately want to try and funnel that back into the community. It only makes sense as K2N gets larger to help the community that is building it up to begin with. So again, thank you all so much for that. So for this week's talking point, we were talking about technique versus strength and fitness, the classic tale of David versus Goliath. Paddling is one of the most technical based sports that you can do in the world, right? There are so many different nuances and ideas that go into your movement, wielding a tool and grabbing a liquid. And as a coach, my primary focus is on the technical side of the equation. One of the reasons that I focus on technique so much and not so much on strength and fitness as a focal point is because your return on time and energy investment going into technique will give you a much larger return than that energy and time being focused on fitness and strength. Paddlers that focus on the strength and fitness exclusively and don't take time to assess refining their movement and getting more performance out of moving in a superior pattern typically need an incredibly long amount of time to reach paddling maturity, to reach a skills level that is discernible as good. This is tricky within the community because when we have paddlers that are at a high level, a lot of times they've been around for a long time, right? And it is always very interesting to see new paddlers arise from out of nowhere and match the skill level of a paddler that's been around for 10 or 15 or 20 years in the sport. And the reason for this, again, as we start to focus only on strength and fitness, your return on time and energy investment is incredibly low after a certain point. Going from being out of shape to being in shape is a huge performance jump. But going from in shape to really good shape or world-class shape is a very small percentile as we start to go up. And the real major contributor to your movement economy and how you're able to stretch out your fitness level is how you're moving and how you're using the tool and how you're manipulating the boat. All of these ideas are all technique related. You don't reach the cap on technical progression until much higher up, right? And you're able to reach this point much sooner than the physical side. And if I were to focus on how many push-ups you can do and what was your bench press and how many pull-ups you can do and what was your standing long jump, all of these things take years to get good at. in a physical way. But the technical aspect in moving your hips better and using your body leverages to your advantage may only take weeks to get. Once a person has these ideas in their favor, they immediately defeat Goliath using only strength and fitness in their arsenal. Now, when you get to the really high-end performance in the world, right, paddlers have both, right? Where they are inhumanly strong with inhuman levels of fitness, and they have really inhuman amount of precision with using their tools. But most paddlers that are lower down on this pyramid, you only need really one to progress forward, right? And the technical one is on an express lane going upward versus the fitness and the strength one is on a much slower pathway. You can spend 15 years working on your pull-ups to have this inhuman strength on the paddle, or you can just use leverages a little bit better to match this person in a very short amount of time. Then as you start to integrate strength and fitness into the other person's protocol, now they start to elevate very quickly. But it's something to assess, right? If 90% of your time and effort is into your intervals and your heart rate and your strength output, you should think about moving that amount of focus, dedication, time, and energy into mastering your movement. Where does your top hand start? Where does it finish? Where do your hips start? Where do they finish? How much do your knees move? Where does the blade exit? How does it enter into the water? What is the interaction as you're in the water? How does it feel? Do you throw water as the blade leaves the water? These are all ideas that move crafts forward more efficiently versus how many push-ups can you do in 35 seconds. That is a useless metric in comparison to figuring out all of these details. So strength and fitness is a percentage of the whole, but it is not the largest part of it. Your technical ability is the larger aspect to focus on. So keep sharpening your abilities with the tool and how you're moving your body first and foremost, and let the strength and fitness follow behind that. Thank you all so much for checking out the video. We have some footage of OC6 paddling and myself in the OC1. We were unable to get all 3 OC6s out on the water this week, but hopefully next week we'll have 3 OC6s out on Lake Hernando. I'm still trying to get 18 people to come to practice and fill these boats up. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you all next week for the next K2N vlog episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to Lake Hernando. So doing a little interval. This is actually right before I filmed this episode. And I think a couple weeks ago, I was paddling at 41 strokes a minute, going 7.2 miles an hour, same paddle, same boat, same lake. And I wanted to see how much faster I could go by paddling a little bit faster. So I'm holding a little over 70 strokes per minute. It doesn't look like 70 SPM. A lot of my movement is pretty fluid, so it doesn't look so frantic. It felt frantic. I think the larger blade kind of slows down some of that motion in the water, which gives a smoother effect, and then being really quick on the recovery and setting up all these angles. But 41 strokes per minute got me 7.2 miles an hour for a full mile, and meaning I could go faster for a half-mile segment like this. So I have to jump the stroke rate 30 strokes per minute to go only 0.8 miles per hour. I'm going like 10% faster, but I have to dump in almost double the amount of strokes to make that work. So it's interesting, the faster you start going, the more wave drag that you start to create, and it's like on an exponential curve. So the difficulty in moving a craft from 7 to 7.1 miles per hour, it only sounds like a little bit, it only is a little bit, but it's almost the same amount of energy to go from 0 all the way up to 5 miles an hour. And so it's an interesting conundrum. As you go faster, it gets harder and harder to push the vessel beyond those points. And you can see that here, 71 strokes per minute, still getting almost 10 feet per stroke, but it's a way more energy than dropping the stroke rate down to 50 or 60 and holding more of a cruising speed. And this is one of the reasons you don't see super high-end racers in outrigger canoe going 8 miles per hour, because it's just not really feasible within the human limit to hold those speeds for long distances at least. And you know, pretty happy, half mile, 8 miles an hour, it's pretty good. If I could hold it for a full mile, I'd be pretty cool, but still working on that. A lot of effort, a lot of time is gonna have to go to make that possible. So we got the 2 OC6s out, and this is a Thursday morning practice, and we're trying to divvy up and figure out the speed differential between the Rhino and our Mirage here on the side. And at the last second, I had 6 people in the Rhino, and I'm like, hey Susan, you're going in Christina's boat. And so my crew ended up being a bit faster than I had anticipated with me in it. You can see I'm jumped ahead. My wife here in the Mirage is a little bit slower. The Rhino definitely scoots fast, closer to 9-minute miles. If you are under 9-minute miles, you are going to be closer to 10-minute miles. This is our intricate steersman swap skill. There will be a future YouTube video on doing that. I don't know if walking on the back of your OC6 is frowned upon in Polynesia. If it is, let me know. But I didn't want to jump in the water, so I went around, even though the water is like 93 degrees. So we make the boat swap. Christina is in the Rhino, and she's winning on the straightaways, but you can see the boat does not turn worth a crap. So I'm able to scoot on the inside with the Mirage, and we ended up being slower all around. We just made the turns faster, and that was the difference as we come into the second lap. Each of these loops is about 1.5 miles, which is a little over 2,000 meters, 2,400 meters all total. And we kept the boats the same. We moved her empty seat, we moved her empty seat to seat 4 instead of 5. And we give it a go here. And as we're going down, she's going to win on the straightaway. And I really thought on this, I was like, there's no way that we're going to catch up. They just absolutely crushed us. And then again, the magical turn. She has to swoop way out to the side because the boat's got that keel line on the bottom. It turns very slow. And the Mirage, having that flatter, rounded bottom, it allows it to turn much easier. And yeah, we were able to pull it out. We were able to call a good power 40. And that was one of the differences in getting the canoe ahead. And as we approach the final turn, if we get there first, there's no way that we can lose it. And that's what happened. So we ended up finishing all the way through. So that was a lot of fun trying to balance those out. This is on Saturday morning. Christina's in the Mirage again. We didn't have a huge attendance for Saturday practice like I was anticipating, so unable to take out 2 full canoes or the 3rd canoe, which I'm still trying to work on. We're in the thick of dragon boat season, and we have a lot of dragon boat paddlers in the area that are too busy doing other cool stuff than to come on the lake and paddle 3 junky boats with K2N. I get it, it's a lot more fun to do dragon boat, but here we are, and it's me and Susan in the OC2, and the OC6 on Saturday was surprisingly fast. I was not expecting them to be as quick as they were. I make a lot of tactical moves to jump our OC2 ahead, and it forces the OC6 to work together, strategize, and try to make a move to catch back up to us, right? So I would kind of regulate the speed in order to be like that carrot on the stick and be an incentive for the OC6 to speed up and, you know, really work on their teamwork in order to make those speed jumps. The average speed on this was about 9-minute miles, so we could have threw everybody in the Rhino and they would have been pretty fast. Christina making the turn here, but even with the turns with the OC6 being different boat to boat, they are no comparison to a small boat making the turn. I'm half the length, I got a rudder, and I'm able to manipulate through the turns. So the small boats can always cut on the inside of the big boat, but when it's big boat to big boat, there is another level of disparity based on the hull design. So here we go again. So making that turn, I was in the back and then I jumped back to the front. This again gives some incentive for the crew to keep working hard. This is an upwind section here. This is the slowest mile of our 7-mile loop. And you know, having somebody or having a canoe out in front of you to focus on and try to keep up with, it allows you to push through those tougher moments a little bit easier. And we're on the final lake here, and unfortunately, the GoPro dies before we hit the finish line, which is where land is straight ahead. And you'll just have to use your imagination to decide who won here. We're coming down to the wire, boats are side by side, and I'm not gonna spoil who the winner was. Thank you all so much for checking out the vlog episode. If there's anything you wanna see, leave a comment below, and we'll see you all next week for the next episode.